Hello.
Hello. We're here. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm a little spaced out. I was up late, really late last night. I mean, as I always am, but I'm trying to get myself on more of a normal schedule. But I mean, I've been a night owl since I popped out of the womb, so I don't really have a whole lot of expectation for some fantastic result. But my end goal is that I can get to bed by 1 o'clock in the morning. And
Yes.
I know that may not seem like a lot to most people, but the reality is I usually go to bed at like 4 o'clock in the morning
Mm.
most nights. And then lately, sometimes even like 5:30 in the morning, I'm like, what is this? And it's funny because I took this course with, are you familiar with Sadhguru?
No, no, I am not.
Okay, well, he's a mystic yogi out of
Ooh.
India, and I took his inner engineering course because it was something he was offering to um, people that have Ayurvedic backgrounds just free. It was giving this free course,
Mm.
and it was applicable for continuing education units. So I went ahead and said, okay, I'm going to take this course, and it was really an amazing course, but he was talking about as you do more yoga, as you do more meditation, you get clearer and clearer, you start needing less sleep because the creative energy in your body is like freed up more and it wants to channel, it wants somewhere to go, somewhere to flow. And so,
Hmm.
and also your ability to regenerate your health, your well-being on the cellular level is enhanced when, you do a lot of meditation and yoga. And I thought, oh, maybe that's what it is.
Hmm.
Maybe that's what it
Maybe.
is. Because I mean, I don't feel tired, and I do get a decent amount of sleep. I mean, I may go to bed at 4 in the morning, but I get up at like 10:30, 11. You know, so it's just my schedule's flip flop. But I've been trying to change it, and I had been on a steady stint, had been doing really good. I've been getting up super early in the morning. Well,
Mm.
super early for me. I've been getting up really early for me. And I've been going to bed at like 2 in the morning. So, I've really improved my schedule. I've been getting up at like 9. And immediately, like 15 minutes after I get out of bed, I'm doing the Chloe Ting challenge. So yeah, I'm in middle of my fourth round of that. And
Wow.
I feel amazing. I feel really good, but this is her really toughest challenge. It's the summer get shredded challenge,
Oh.
and she's been kicking my ass. And so yeah, I was up late last night until not 5 o'clock this morning. Just doing writing and course creation stuff and business stuff, and doing readings for Broad Coven. And so now I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm here, but I'm actually happy to be here because I always love to drop in with you and everybody that hangs out with us.
I do too. I do too. No, and Mercury in retrograde ended today. I know that. Um, but it's eclipse season, man, and I everybody people that I've been talking to have, you know, commented on the really heavy energy. Um, More so, and I don't, you know, tragedies that have happened aside, the energy is just really heavy. And I think unfortunately, because of the escalated violence that's happened, it feels even heavier to some people. And I guess that kind of tie weirdly can kind of tie into tonight's topic. And lost in manifestation, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it can mean a lot of things for a lot of different people. What inspired me was Broad and I were chatting last weekend, and I was laughing and telling her that I found a whole bunch of spell work, like jars and petitions, going back like a year, maybe even two, maybe even 2 years
My goodness.
of spell work and petitions that I had did that I didn't finish to completion. I didn't release. And when we say finish to completion, what does that mean? It means I released it. I let it go. I allowed my gods, my ancestors, whoever's in my court to carry it from that moment on. And
Ooh.
during the eclipse, I decided to handle my shit and burn what I needed to burn and bury the rest. There was a lot that I didn't necessarily bury, but just gave back to the earth because that was necessary. And, I have found the past few weeks, there have been some things that were weighing particularly heavy on me that I was like, I don't really care. And then I went, oh, wait, that was one of my petitions. Mm, okay, okay. And that got us talking about how easy it is. And even some other witchy friends that I have, they started laughing when I told them the topic and the subject because they were like, "Oh my god." And then they started thinking like, "Oh shit. Do I have anything I haven't finished yet?" And you know, it's okay. First and foremost, I want to say it's okay. It's okay that you left it on your altar or left it wherever it was and didn't do it. That's not what this is not a shaming. This is just oh yeah, I guess that really does happen, doesn't it?
Well, it's really interesting. A couple things that came through. First, you brought in like the collective heaviness right now. And to be honest with you, I didn't even make that connection. I didn't even make that connection, that maybe that is why I'm feeling tired, I'm feeling tired today. Maybe that is why I stayed up so late too. The energy has been pretty, buzzing lately. And it is a heavy kind of energy. It's a little interesting for me because I've really been putting my focus and my energy on uh, building the light or seeing where is their healing potential, where is their
Mhm.
growth potential, where are their gifts that come from the challenges that we're collectively facing. And that's just where I'm choosing to put my energy, because I don't choose to focus on the quote unquote problem, because as long as we put our focus on the quote unquote problem, then that's what we're feeding. We're collectively feeding that energy instead of trying to think of, okay, so these things have happened, these really heavy, horrific things have happened, but there's some opportunity for us collectively here. We're being given an opportunity to heal. We're being given an opportunity to grow. So the more of us that can kind of like hone our focus there, put our intention there, we can actually start feeding that instead of feeding this other cycle. The other thing that led right into that is when you said, I let my ancestors, my gods, carry it for me for the past couple of years. And then I was thinking about how that's so perfectly like tied in of this feeling of heaviness, right? This feeling of collective heaviness. And yet there's this piece, I think, that so often is, as witches or alchemists, whatever your path is, whatever you call your path, metaphysician, whatever
Mhm.
title you're comfortable with. To me, it's all the same trip. We're all walkers of the weird way, okay? However you're practicing, to me, what's really interesting is that we often forget the piece of like, it's so important to feed the source, to give back to the source, to nurture the source that feeds you, and how that's such a reciprocal flow, this giving, taking, giving, receiving. And so it's like, yeah, I let him carry it. I let him carry it for a couple of years. It's interesting just how you put it like that because it made so many things click, in my mind. And usually when we're doing spell work, we're looking to transform or transcend some part of ourselves that has us feeling weighed down and burdened, right? Instead, we're like, here, you feel weighed down and burdened for a couple of years. You're gonna carry this. And then we wonder, like, why isn't things manifesting the way I thought they would? But and I know you resonate with this. It's like, but yeah, maybe that's exactly how it's meant to be at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
because there's a valuable like lesson that comes through.
Yes.
You
And
really fuck up.
yes, and that's why I said this is not a shaming because you don't really know if the reason that you delayed or didn't do was exactly what you were supposed to do
Hmm.
and what you were intuitively and spiritually being instructed to do. Because one of the and I hate to no, I just like to bring up the book because the author unfortunately it's a little the author has become a little unsavory. But it is one of my favorite books. It's called The Mists of Avalon, and
Mm.
it's the Arthurian legend told through the eyes of the women. And unfortunately, the author is there were allegations against this author by her children. Um, and so I just want to preface at that instead of if somebody comes back and says, "Oh my God, I can't believe you recommended this book. Are you aware of the author?" Yes,
Mhm.
yes. Before we go there, yes. But one of the things that is talked about is the spell goes the way the spell goes. Thanks, Ted.
Mhm.
I appreciate the backup. Ted's like, don't come for my girl, right? She's being honest. But one of the things that they talked about numerous times was the spell goes how the spell goes. That includes the making, the implication, and then the outcome. And one of the best, it's the mini story in it. Guinevere goes to Morgaine and says, "I want you to make me a charm so I could have a baby. So Arthur and I can give the King Camelot an heir." And Morgaine tells her, "You have no idea how this is going to manifest itself. Are you sure this is what you want?" And it manifested in the book series a threesome. And she, of course, as the Christian pious woman, felt not only did she use witchcraft, but then she had a threesome with her husband. So don't come for me, Arthurian purists. Don't. It's a reinterpretation. Okay. Um, but there it was. Exactly as Morgaine warned her, because she made her the charm. She made her the charm. She said, "Okay, cool, you're so desperate. You wanna now come to my ways of getting things done? Be careful, little girl. Be careful." That's what we're talking about is you don't know. You don't know what and especially if you are working no, not especially if you're working with deity. The universe and the spirit, because I know some people don't work with deity. I know some people are, more discordian and chaotic in their practice, and so deity does not fit into that. But again, within chaos and discordianness, that's where, it has a mind of its own and it can go in a completely different direction, you know, once once something that wants it gets a hold of it, I think of like elementals or, spirits of the earth, spirits of the woods, of the water, you know, if they get their
or
hands, yeah,
or avocado Rosicrucian. I mean,
yeah.
you can make up your own gods too.
Yes. Yes. 100%.
I mean,
I
I kind of like that. You know, I sort of feel like I'm a broad of the wild winds, you know. I like the I'm strange with my workings like that. I like the unpredictability. I like the spontaneity. I like the wild energy. Um, that's just the current. Prefer to ride, you know, with my workings. That's why I'm a Discordian witch. But
right, right.
and in fairy, I'm also, you know, a Discordian fairy witch. I work with fairy, which I think fairy at its heart is Discordian. They're trickster energies, right? They like to play jokes on you. They can be very rough with you if you don't give them the proper respect.
Mhm.
They are unpredictable, you know,
Yep.
and they're also playful and fun and break
Yes.
all kinds of norms, and I love all that energy. But I also I'm on my path for my own personal growth, you know, my own
Mhm.
personal transformation and just alchemy, you know. My goal is always just to get free of all the bullshit, you know. So there's kind of like I think that's what I like so much about a Discordian path is it pulls from any you can pull from any tradition and just here I
Mhm.
got my own thing that I've created and that's pretty much what I do. But um, you know, very much in harmony, a lot of it with like Eastern mysticism, you know, strongly figures in my practice and naturally practicing Ayurveda as an Ayurvedic practitioner,
Mhm.
that influences that element that comes in my own ancestral roots and all that.
Mhm.
But in all those traditions, you know, what is the one thing that's like imperative? It's like no control, right? Like you
Right.
just gotta, you can put out, you know, your intention, but then you gotta let go. It's kind of like if you know, you want to shoot for the moon with that bow and arrow, you know, you gotta let go of the quiver. You can't hold on to it and hit
Mhm.
your target. But once you let go, here's the thing, you can't sit there and focus on it, right?
Right.
You
When we don't
can't.
know where that arrow's gonna go, I mean, yes, of course, we want it to hit the goal, but it may take its own journey
Yep.
before it hits the goal.
Yeah.
And hello everybody. Hi. I know a few people
Hello.
have come in the room. Hello, 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 Sean. Hello, Jennifer. Um, thank you. And there's 6 people here right now, and I'm like,
Lovely.
oh wow. I'm like, wow,
I can't see them on my
haven't
end.
haven't had this many people in the room in a while.
Am I able to pull up chat on my end?
I don't know. Hi. Oh, there's Anthony.
Uh,
Hi, Anthony.
I don't
I don't
see.
think so. I think when
I can go and you get
it's
you.
yeah, I think that you just get access to it. Hello, Kellyanne. Hello. See, I called everybody out. Now they're now
You'll have to
now
just
you're
pop up
saying
the
stuff
really good
today.
comments for me so I can see.
So yes, Kellyanne waved hello. Hello, Kellyanne.
Hello.
Anthony waved hello. Hello,
Hi,
Anthony.
Anthony. We need to get Anthony on here again.
We
Anthony,
do.
Anthony, next one I want you to come on Broad Coven with me and Lizzie next month, please.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Anthony, I want you to come up with the topic for the show. Anything you want, anything goes, whatever you want to bring in. I want a man's perspective to come in.
Thank you.
I want a nice, strong, evolved man's perspective to come
Yes,
in.
please.
So you
Yes,
come up
please.
with the topic, Anthony. I want you to come on next month with me
That's
and
right.
Lizzie. And we'll have fun.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that the last time we did that. It was great.
I did too. I did too. I was thinking about that a few days ago actually. Interesting. Interesting. But no, and I think we're gonna meander and scatter, and that's okay. Um, um, good. Yay, Anthony. Anthony says sounds great to me.
Awesome.
I think
All
it sounds
right.
great.
I'll be in touch.
Yes, please. But again, we don't know where that arrow is gonna go. And we don't know one if because this is something that I know is kind of, I don't necessarily want to say taboo, but I feel like it's not talked about enough within the metaphysical or manifestation community. Sometimes what we want to manifest to our for ourselves is not what's for our greatest and highest good. And there are some times where it's not happening because it wasn't supposed to happen. And that, I think that's a difficult thing that folks struggle with, especially, because if you're newer to this community, they just tell you, it's all in your, we create something out of nothing. And we do, which is create something out of nothing 100%. But there's also kind of a time where the universe and the nothing is like, I'm not becoming that something. No, no, I'm not doing that.
Well,
And
and
that's
it's
a
also like you might be manifesting flowers, but the piece you get to hold is you got to bring the bullshit because it takes bullshit to make the flowers grow. So it's like
right.
sometimes you don't know, if you're potentially creating a burden for yourself, which I have to say is why, except for the prosperity jar that I did, which I still need to release.
But you have a plan for that, so that's
I do.
okay.
I do have a plan for it, and I'm actually building it. And I think I'll bring this in, okay? Because when you brought this up to me, the idea for this show, and you were talking about that, I was like, I'm usually pretty good with releasing stuff, making
Mhm,
my witch's salt and doing all that. But I was like, I wonder if I have anything that I did, and I like caught my money jar. And I did do, the money jar all the days. I did the chanting. I really got into the chanting soon. I was like jingling that thing around and doing a dance to it. I mean, I really fed it. I gave it all its fire. I did everything I was supposed to do. And then it's just like when it came time to let it go, I was like, hmm. But this interesting thing happened as I sat there and I thought to myself, it was a conscious thing. It wasn't unconscious. It's not like I forgot about it.
mhm,
I consciously was like, no, it doesn't feel right to let it go yet. And I realized that some blocks that I still had in me
mhm,
around success, around finances, I realized some blocks I had in me around just because of the difficult position I got put in because of the whole situation over the past couple of years with everything being shut down and having to revamp my work,
mhm,
how much I had become more focused on security
mm,
and that had disconnected me from some other places that I really
mhm,
need to feed more with my work. And so as I like sat and like thought about all these things, I was like, whoa, it's doing a whole other level of magic now. Like this is the shit
mhm,
I like. Because I was like, all right, I'm seeing blocks inside of myself. This is stuff that I need to transform.
mhm,
And then I also thought about, okay, one of the biggest things for me when it comes to doing any kind of working is it's like lovely to do a ritual and lovely to have an intention,
mhm.
but you got to like take the practical steps. Like that's a big important piece of it. So like I
Yes.
sat down and I wrote up the list, like what is my piece that I got to hold. And it's interesting because you opened up this discussion with, I let my gods hold it, right? and
Yes.
and this was a piece that I've been thinking about that already, like it's important to feed the gods.
Mhm,
And I was sitting there and I was like, well, I can help them out by doing everything I can on my end. And so I took out a notebook and I wrote down every single thing that I need to do and that I can do.
Rude
Yeah.
Boy says he had to
Yeah.
unlearn some of those things.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it was. It was like
Mhm,
this unraveling, process. Hey, Arbibo. It was this like unraveling process that needed to occur. And it was actually really beautiful because it's like the
mhm,
path rises up from within and then out of you. So I wrote down everything I needed to do. And when I looked at it, I went, holy shit. Because I'm already doing a lot, but I realized there's so much more that I can be doing that I need to be doing, yeah, fuck yeah, root chakra energies and blockages. And so that's what I did. I did the
Mhm.
practical root chakra work, getting stuff grounded. So I wrote out myself a schedule with a to-do list, what time I'm going to go to bed, what time I'm going to get up. I like started really organizing everything. And so I kicked that off with this new moon cycle we just had in Gemini
Mm.
to feed this money jar that I'm doing. Now I'm doing the practical work. I'm feeding it with my offering of like investing the time, energy in my material
Right.
reality. Because I thought,
Yes.
okay, I want this success. I want to get into a place where I have that real, stable financial solvency. That is my goal.
Mhm.
That's important to me. There's things I want to grow in my life, and there's also work I want to be able to do in the world from that place that will be facilitated by that. So I really realized that it was a matter of now I'm feeding it with that offering. And I'm going to do that until the full moon on the 14th of June, that's super moon in Sagittarius. Sagittarius is my moon sign, and Cal Garrison, a phenomenal astrologer that I used to work with, once told me that when the full moon or the new moon is in your moon sign, that's like a very important cycle for you that has like extra oomph. So
Mm.
so I,
Okay.
and Sagittarius ruled by Jupiter, that's that expansive blessing energy. Everything grows with that Jupiter energy.
Yep.
So it's like, and it's perfect because my Jupiter is in Capricorn, which really
Oh,
grounds and roots the energy. And Saturn, right, which rules over Capricorn, is all about discipline, structure. You
yes,
know
it
what I'm
is. Yep.
saying?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, new moon is strong for real, for real. And it's building up to the full moon, and it's great because we hit the full moon too when it's out of that Mercury retro cycle.
Yes.
So I just thought this is perfect. And it's right before we start to enter into the summer season, so the light's going to be growing. Yeah,
Mhm.
and I just realized like, oh, the timing is off. That's all it
Yeah.
was. The timing was off. And there's certain chores, the internal chores, like Cinderella wanted to go to the ball, right? She
Yeah.
wanted to go to the ball, but she had to do her chores first. She had to do that inner work first,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
that parable of that. And so it's like there's things I needed to do, and there's things I needed to practically do to set the template for that. So that's how I'm
Mhm.
feeding it. And then I am going to release it and bury it and give some kind of offering back to the earth. Maybe I'll give some oats to fairy, and maybe, get some mead, maybe leave some offerings of mead and just like bring in that sweetness and just that, gratitude energy, and have a proper ritual too to follow, even back it up further on solstice. So
Mm. Mm.
yeah, because
Yeah.
sometimes it's a way to revamp, and sometimes you have cleaning up work you need to do. So it's not
Yes.
always an accident, right?
No, it's really not, and I had shared this portion with you, this all came about because I found some poetry that I wrote when I was 14. And I know I was 14 because I dated it with the year, month, date, year. And it was really like a 14-year-old should not be writing about death and the death of God and the birth of, whatever the fuck I thought my 14-year-old self was birthing. Um,
You said
Holy
the birth.
shit!
Split of the deck energy. Giving birth to a skull. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you,
No,
but that was just like just
perfect.
right when you said birth, I split the deck and I was like, you have got to be kidding me.
Nope.
Okay.
So, so I was like, what the fuck is this? I was like, oh hell no, we're burning this tonight. I was like, it's the full moon, it's the eclipse. And then I wandered over to my altar and I was like, I saw the money jar and I went, oh. And then I was like, wait a minute. So I started looking and I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. I was like, what the fuck, dude? I was like, why do you still have this? Why do you still have this? So, so I did. I got my cauldron and I burned I burned a lot. I let go of the jars that I still had. I returned those to the earth. The petitions that were in the jars because I don't like to litter, I did burn those. But the contents that were biodegradable, I don't litter. Okay. I'm a conscious witch. I gave back to the earth. And I before I burned the poetry, I called my 14-year-old self in the room. And I she was sitting there looking all gothic and so very sad. And I said, "Okay, we're not doing this anymore." I lit a clove cigarette because I still have cloves. And she like she I saw she was kind of looking and she was looking at the cauldron and the fire that was going in there. And she looked at me and she said, "Are we really this cool?"
That's
Home
like
run.
that's like you. That's like
Yeah.
you as the goat, right?
Yeah. And I was like, What do you mean?" And she's like, "We have our own place. This is our patio. We have a tattoo on our chest. Are we witches? Is our head shaved? Our head shaved?" And I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "And our nose is pierced?" She was like, we are this cool." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, we are. We are. You know what?" I was like, "And you know what? We're fucking queer too. We're queer." And that kind she got really tense and I said, "No, no, 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 no. No, no. 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 We're queer. And this is probably why we wanted to die.
Hmm.
And we're not doing that anymore."
Hmm.
So we burnt it together. And I said, "We are this fucking cool. And we are this accepted. And we are this loved."
Hell yeah.
And we shared that clove. And I rarely ever smoke a full clove, but I did. But I smoked them full when I was 14 too, so it didn't surprise me. And that was it. And it it really it really was exactly the way that it was supposed to happen. I released everything first. I went back to my back patio. I burnt everything and that was it. And I realized that I became whatever I, in my little 14-year-old self dreams, wanted to be. And, I remember being 14 and being with my goth friends and seeing what I would consider an elder goth. And we'd be like, "Oh, do you think we're going to be like them when we're older? Like, do you think we're going to be that cool?" You know? And the answer I can tell myself was yes, 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 yes. Now, we may not be the pale faced, painted on eyebrow beauty that we were, but we're elder now. We don't need to do that. We can have our eyebrows. We don't need to pancake makeup ourselves to be what we really are. And it was it was pretty powerful. And then the next weekend my ancestors were like very much like, "Hi, hello, how are you? Can we get some banana pudding?" And I'm like, "Okay, sure." Then like I said, Hades was like, "Oh my god." And I was like, "That's what you want too, dude? You want some banana pudding too?" Like he's never really asked for food items. So I was like, "Oh, okay. I'm not going to question it. It is clearly something you want, so I'm going to give it to you." And it was
Well, it's
great.
interesting. It's
Mhm.
interesting too. It's like because you put off, that working, and because it came off. It came in during that eclipse energy,
Mhm.
right in middle of that Mercury retro energy, that Pluto retro, which is still retrograde, energy, which is all about integrating sort of those disparate parts of ourselves. It's like this really is you, it's like you were this rebellious, kind of wild, don't tell me who to be, teenager,
Mhm.
probably defensive because of that place inside of you that you were guarding, that you felt very vulnerable around and scared to accept in yourself, more because you were worried about how it would be received by others. And it's like, how cool that you had this experience where like you forgot to complete the spell, and then at the perfect timing, it created this opportunity where, what was unconscious was able to be brought into consciousness,
Mhm.
so it no longer has to rule over your life, but you become the master of that, right? So you like alchemized and integrated your shadow at that point and
Mhm.
stepped into self ownership with. It's like so beautiful. And it's
Yeah.
also, I like how you were like talking about just redefining, who you can be, and having that be on your terms, and not it being about what other people think you should do, or how you think other people should look, be a fucking goat, like do your own fucking thing. And yeah, I love how you said that, like hit the home run, and that's really like, that's sort of like what the message of the working was, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
That's what the message of the working was, and that's why you were meant to hold it back, so you could have that moment where you hit the fucking home run and you
Yep.
realize, yeah, I alchemized that shit.
Mhm.
Like that stuff that used to have
Mhm.
so much power over me. Like instead of letting it have power over me, I stepped into my power, and that's what transformed everything. And once
Yep.
you have that, you have belonging within yourself. You're empowered within yourself. It's so
Yeah.
beautiful. I love
Yeah.
that you had that moment.
And I have no idea what possessed me to even look in the box that I did, because it was a bunch of books. And the poetry was tucked into one of my Disney books. Like that's like I was like,
Which one? Which one? Which
um
one?
I think
It
it was
matters.
Pinocchio. I think no, no. No,
Oh.
no, no. Cinderella. Cinderella. For those of you just tuning in, Shannon had mentioned maybe about 15 minutes ago Cinderella.
I love
Uh,
it though, because you know what? I have this thing, it's part of my Discordian witch fairy path, okay? I have this thing that fairy tales follow me. And I'm not talking about that Disney shit. I'm talking about the real fairy tales, like the Grimm's fairy tales, like
mhm, mhm.
real raw shit where it's really, if you want to know about fairy, man, all you need to do, go pick up some Grimm's fairy tales, and you got it right there. That
Yep.
is fairy for sure. Inside, outside, back, front, top, down, you name it.
Mhm,
Uh, and what I learned, I had a long period of time where Cinderella was really front and center on my path. And I had some crazy ass shit happen. Crazy shit. I was working New Year's Eve at Milk and Honey, which is, for those who don't know, those who don't live in the area in Sonoma County, it's a little, witchy metaphysical shop in Sebastopol. And I worked there. And I was working New Year's Eve. And what is New Year's Eve about? It's all about the countdown to midnight. Time, it's the time thing. And we're talking about time here with this, like, oh, I forgot to finish this spell type shit, right? And, Cinderella was also casting her own kind of spell. What did she want? She just wanted to go to the ball. And if you look at the original Grimm's fairy tale, it had nothing to do with she wanted a prince. It
no,
had
it did not.
nothing to do with that. She actually just wanted to go and have a fucking good time. She wanted to get dressed up. She wanted to Queen of Wands it. She wanted to feel herself. She wanted to dance all night. She had so much burden and so much heaviness in her life. She just wanted to go and have fucking fun. That's all. She didn't care about this D-bag, she didn't want to deal with any of that noise. She just wanted to have fun. So there's this big countdown, right? So I was sitting in Milk and Honey with my friend. Gosh, she was working with me that day. I think it was Anna. And we were working together that night. And I was like talking to her about my stuff that had been happening with Cinderella and this, synchronistic stuff that had been going down. And we started talking about chores. And what could the chores be metaphor for? And then we started talking about the inner chores, doing the inner work. You got to do the inner work before you can go to the ball. And right in the middle of me talking about Cinderella, this little girl walks in, and she was probably about 3 years old. And she was dressed in a Cinderella costume, down to little glass slippers. And she walked right up to me. We were sitting back in the place that used to be called Goddess Lounge, where they served up elixirs and coffees and stuff. And it was a slow night, we were sitting there. We had just been talking. This little girl walks in with her mom. She bypasses her mom. She comes all the way up to me. I didn't see her at first. And she tugged on my sleeve of my shirt. And I looked down, and there's little Cinderella, and I was all, oh! And Anna goes, oh my gosh, it's Cinderella. I said, I'm telling you. And I looked at this little girl, this little toddler, and I said, so tell me, Cinderella, do I get to go to the ball? And she goes, no. She crossed her arms and stomped her feet. No. And I said, how come? She said, you didn't do your chores.
Oh, Ted.
Oh, Teddy. So it's just that's so wild. That's so wild.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Yes, you did. You gave me a pumpkin candle. And then I'm not kidding, 5 pumpkins showed up on my doorstep at that time, too, out of nowhere. I still don't know. It was probably our Vivo. Dropped some pumpkins off on my doorstep back then. So yeah, that time, it's interesting, Cinderella, because there's time. It's all about that time piece and the role that time plays. And maybe if we're alchemists, we forget about those spells, those workings we've left undone, because in a weird way, we're doing a bit of psychological time bending.
Yes,
so
we are.
Certain things can align before we get to that place where we say, okay, now it's time to really let this go. Because sometimes you got to process around some shit. If you're doing workings for transformation, it was not you. Okay, well, something left me 5 pumpkins, 5 of them on my doorstep of my apartment at that time.
Wow.
I even found a magic wand with a star on top of it. It was pretty crazy. It was pretty crazy.
No, yeah, it was because I don't know why, but I have kept the books from my childhood. I think at one point in time it's because I thought I was going to have children, and then I was like, oh, I'll just give it to my kids. But Disney used to make their, these big hardcover books of their movies, and I guess my 13-year-old self thought that there was an irony of placing, poetry where you talk about bleeding out.
That was the goat in you.
Yeah. So, I really did. I was like, okay. I was like, not my best work that I've written, but I was only 14, and I could tell that I was trying to rhyme or something. I don't, but I did a 2-parter poem about, death and suicide. I was like, oh, okay, because, we needed a follow-up to that one. Got it. Okay. And
sometimes you do.
I guess,
yeah.
So
you back then did.
I guess I did, and
maybe that's what saved you, is being able to at least have some place where you can,
right.
reveal that energy. Yeah, witness it.
Yeah.
Witness it instead of it just like rattling around inside of you. I think that can be cathartic, you know?
No, I absolutely, it was just quite like, oh, okay, wow. So, I really was as messed up as I thought I was as a teenager. Good to know. Good
I
to
was
know,
I was pretty messed up myself.
you know.
I was
But
pretty messed up all the way into my early 20s, actually.
same. I was actually pretty messed up
And
until
then
maybe
life
30.
just totally annihilated me and handed me my ass. And then after that, it's like it was a long road, but
Mhm.
every day, in every way, I got better and better.
Yes. And that kind of leads into another thing that may be a hurdle to letting go. Trauma, baby.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for
You
real.
know, um, I was having a conversation with a good friend of mine today about the difficulty of letting go and how I feel like some of us that have had more trauma within our, adolescent and teenage years, we find things a little more difficult to let go of because control was one of our survival mechanisms.
Okay. Now, this is really wild. Okay, I just have to say, because we were talking about fairy tales.
Yeah.
And we got, no, I always get them mixed up when I do it like this. I have to look. I'm not proficient with this YouTube shit yet, okay? Mother, we got this Mother Goose image here, although it's called Madame Rufflebonnet in this deck. But I saw this and I instantly thought of Mother Goose,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And that whole nursery rhyme around that. And then you're talking about trauma, right? And this is like the thing. It's like the monkey on our back, right? And it's what's steering us forward. It's what's driving our actions, and we don't even realize how impotent it makes us, how much it holds us back from actually being able to manifest. I don't know. I see this, Vienna sausage here, and it just makes me think of, for some reason, it made me think of that lingam energy. It made me think of that Shiva energy, like the impregnator of like what you want to create and bring into the world. But if you got something like this robbing you of your potency, you can't even realize it because you got the trauma
Mhm.
on your back holding you back.
Mhm.
You know, this big
Mm.
sexy Satan in reverse. So this is
Okay.
actually not operating out of, that more of that, right, rebellious, wild, free, breaking with convention, doing things your way,
Right.
but experiencing the opposite side of it where you're oppressed by it. It's like that it's that devil energy. It's the true devil energy, the devil inside that, holds you back.
Mhm. So I noticed someone is here. I want to give a very happy birthday to Miss Krista Flute, who is in the comment section. She is a beautiful Indigenous reader, and today is her birthday. Happy
Happy
birthday!
birthday.
Okay, and then RB had a question. Um, I think that sometimes that can be a slippery slope
I
doing
think
that.
it I think it depends. I think it
Mhm.
depends on where you are in your process. I think there's stages, there's stages of healing, there's stages of grief, and you can't bypass any of those stages.
Mhm.
And I personally feel, and just in what I've experienced in my own work in supporting clients with trauma, and trauma release, what I've seen is first what comes is there needs to be the acknowledgement. There needs to be the awakening, the recognition of what you've been through. Okay, because a lot of times what we disassociate from it, we disconnect from it, we numb ourselves out from it as a way of coping, not in a healthy way, of course, but it's like a survival mechanism. And then you get to the point where you get honest with yourself about what happened. And once you get honest with yourself about what happened and what you're carrying, you recognize your responsibility. I got to do something about this. I got to heal. So then the next step is you got to ask for help, and you got to reach out for support. So then you start digging into that material, sometimes in therapy, sometimes in support groups, sometimes one-on-one counseling, however you choose to go about it. But I think there it does come first a place where you need to have your pain witnessed, you need to have your anger witnessed, you need to have these emotional states witnessed that are things that in our society we're told that that's not okay, that's not
Mhm.
acceptable, you're supposed
Mhm.
to repress that, you need to look like you got everything together, you're not allowed to be vulnerable. And that can be a very difficult place for people, but it's such a key to healing to have that witnessed and held, in a safe space where it's like, yes, and this too, and this is welcome here too, and you are seen in this pain and you are witnessed in this pain. But I think there can come a place where, okay, you've gone into your story, you've been witnessed, you've been processing the pain. I've seen people stay trapped for decades in their trauma.
Mhm.
And I feel that's very counterproductive. And if you're in a place where you are continually just regurgitating the story over and over again, it's like you're binding yourself to it.
Mm.
You're feeding this. And I came up with an analogy once. It's something that came through in one of the readings I did on Cobra's medicine bag. But it's like your shadow is always with you.
Mhm.
It's never gonna not be with you.
Mhm.
That's not what integration means. Integration means you accept the reality of its presence, but because you're aware of it and because you've held space for it and you acknowledged it, you know where it's at, you're able to choose to come from the place inside of yourself that can kind of like rise above that and instead take the medicine, the wisdom you've gained from your time in the shadow to carry you forward and make more conscious, empowering choices in your life. And I think there comes a time when it's like if you are turned away from the sun, you're going to see your shadow in front of you. That's what you're going to be focused on.
Mhm.
But if
Mhm.
you turn toward the light, you know, then your shadow falls behind you. It doesn't mean it's not there. It's just not your focus anymore. Now you're looking at the sun. And so I feel like that there does come a point in the healing process where you need to connect with what makes you passionate, what gives you a sense of purpose, what fills you, fills your cup, makes you feel happy, makes you feel joyful, and connecting with how did the light get in your wound? Like what was the gift you got from going through that? I know that horrible things happen. I have my own, trauma history, okay? But the reality is, if things would not have panned out in my life exactly as they did, even the worst of it, I wouldn't be who I am today. And I can recognize that I gained certain things that I couldn't gain any other way by going through that. And there came a day where I felt a lot of gratitude for that. So I think it's about connecting with, okay, what gifts did I get from this? What strengths did I get from this? And then instead turning your energy towards what makes me feel good,
Mhm.
what gives me pleasure, and approaching that on your level.
Mhm.
And in terms of the dicey area with pleasure, I mean, some people, if they have sexual trauma history, that might be a sensitive place for them to explore, right? But that's why they can connect with pleasure as it feels safe for them. Maybe that begins with them just being willing to like get a beautiful, luscious, yummy smelling cream that, they rub on their body after they take a bath, just to show themselves love and care and get used to a kind kind of touch on their body. And something that can empower them in their body image, not hold that sense of shame.
Mhm.
So I think it just really depends. It depends. But yes, I do think that sort of the final stage of healing uh, really comes from eventually putting your focus on what does fulfill you, what gives you pleasure, because you can't live out of the pain your whole life. Then it robs you of your life.
Mhm. And she meant to say permanence, not petmance. Good old autocorrect, pulling
Mhm.
through. Um, no, and a minimalist, the concept of minimalism is I think that it's very trendy now, and people are like, "Oh, I'm a minimalist." Not you, Krista. I hope you realize I'm not talking about. I know what you're saying, but within within the world that obviously we live in right now, it's that demand for, kind of like you were talking about with pleasure, like it's it's such a fine line, and it's the excess, it's that push to be excess instead of just allowing yourself the freedom of letting it go and not needing to fill it, fill it, and forget it so I don't have to. Um, everybody's engaging now, so I want to make sure that I give everybody a voice. I'm so excited for
Yeah.
everybody to be here. Um, and Kiefer's here. Oftentimes I find myself soaking up.
Mhm.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, yes.
Mhm.
I, you know, I am learning to not to engage in that because I don't want to I'm trying to be I'm trying to find my words in this. As a white person, I have the privilege sometimes of kind of being able to be like, well, that really doesn't affect me. I'm not a parent. I'm not a churchgoer. I'm not a person of color. Um, I'm not. I'm not brown. I'm not black. I'm not indigenous. So that's just kind of not. I have that privilege of being able to back away if I so choose to,
Mhm.
instead of, social media. I have to agree with you on that, Kiefer, because I sometimes feel like social media can be its own toxicity and has turned into its own toxic environment.
Mhm.
Um, it's one of the reasons that I stopped posting a lot on this page, and but I had the privilege of being able to do that, of being able to say, "You know what? There's a lot of toxicity right now and I just really don't want to be a part of it. I don't want to engage in it. So I'm just going to disassociate until I'm ready to come back and engage in it on my terms." Um but it's very draining, you know. Um and um because I think Kiefer's bringing up something very important here. Um, right, right. We care. We care. And um, Kiefer, I know that you will understand this as somebody from a marginalized community, but we also are, I say I'm straight passing, but I think as more time goes on, I can't say that anymore. Um, but someone who looks fairly straight passing, you know, we have the privilege of being able to, until people actually realize we are part of a marginalized group, people don't think we're part of a marginalized group. You know, we're not part of the queer community. And because we're already in a group that is literally currently fighting for its rights along with everybody else right now, um, it's it we care, and we just want things to not be, you know and we want to fix everything, and that goes back to trauma, us growing up, myself in particular. I'm a fixer. I grew up in a very dysfunctional and at times chaotic household, and one of my coping mechanisms was either disengaging completely. I would run off to my friends, I would do other things, I would just remove myself from the situation so I didn't have to see it for what it was. Um, as a child, though, when I could not control and take things into my own hands, I was always trying to make it better.
Mhm.
Let's make it better. And I think that that comes through as adults, is that that's something we, and especially because we're part of a spiritual community that is not Christian based, that we have a sense of a greater sense of community that comes with that. And so we want to heal the hurt. We don't
Mhm.
want to hurt
Well,
anymore.
it's interesting too because they were talking about how they found it made their manifestations choppy, broke things up, and I think like this is an important key in that too is the fact that it is all one energy. It is a collective energy. We
Mhm.
are all interconnected. So anytime one of us is tapped in and doing the working, inevitably our energy affects the whole collective on some level, and we're also working with that collective energy on some level. And I think
Mhm.
this brings in another piece of why sometimes manifestations come through sort of distorted or maybe not in the way we intended, is because a lot of people skip the very essential step of purification, regular purification, doing the chores again, like doing
Yep.
the spiritual
Yep.
clearing, grounding your
Yep.
energy, knowing what's yours, knowing what's not yours, having good boundaries, and also, really purifying yourself before you do
Mhm.
workings. And in terms of like the news and social media,
Eh,
I don't even enter my feed on Facebook anymore, except for I have a limit, and it used to be 15 minutes, and I'm taking it down to 5 minutes. 5 minutes a day, I can scroll through my feed. The rest of the time, I just post stuff, on my wall. And I kind of just assume whoever shows up in my feed is who I'm supposed to communicate with, and within those 5 minutes. And I'm thinking about completely ditching my Instagram altogether,
right.
and just streamlining that, because I do feel it brings in a lot of really negative energy. People are not focused on the right things. There's too much drama. There's too many people wanting to argue.
Mhm.
It's not how I want to feed my energy. Again, it's like bringing in that message. Do you want to focus on the shadow? Do you want to keep looking at problems, or do you want to be more solution oriented and focus your energy in a more productive direction? And then
Mhm.
as far as news, I don't even watch the news. I don't even own a television. When I hear about something major that's gone on, I go and I do my own research, usually through foreign news sources, because I don't trust the news in our country. And I find then I can make my own sort of position, clear within myself. But
Mhm.
uh,
This is a
yeah,
valid point.
it's true.
It
It's
is
true, but
hard.
you're also getting a distortion on media of what's going on with those marginalized groups of people too, through
Mhm.
the media. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, are you really getting clear news? Or are you getting news that's a manipulation, and it isn't really giving you empowering information? That's
Right.
what I'm saying. That's why I don't look at it. And
Mhm.
I get that. I get that, being concerned and wanting to know,
Right.
what's going on.
One,
And
I unfortunately I do know quite a few people in Canada, and Canada, unfortunately, I guess their election was last night, and they
mm,
went super conservative with everything.
wow.
So they are mirroring where we're at in regards to their leaderships, and it is really hard, Krista. One, being an indigenous person,
Mhm.
I, especially with how Canada is, and the only reason I know this is because um oh, that was a re-election. Got it. Got it. Thank you, Krista. But being in Canada, I know that there has been quite a spotlight on the indigenous people and what it's done.
Mhm.
I don't
Right.
necessarily feel that we have that big of a spotlight here. Surprise, surprise. Um, I mean, because let's be real, we have not we've always been trying to pretend that indigenous folk don't exist anymore.
They're
Um,
not talking about all the indigenous women they're missing, you
mhm,
know?
mhm,
And that's the thing. That's why I don't bother with it here because it's programming and I don't want the programming. I don't want that fucking download, you know? I don't want that download. I go to foreign news sources.
mhm.
I feel like I can get a more accurate view of what's really going on. If somebody's seeing it from the outside, they can see it a little bit more
And also
clearly.
people, people sharing like my experience. This is what I'm actually experiencing. This is what's actually happening.
Yeah.
Um, I have found that is a great resource to actually find out what the fuck is really going on.
Yeah.
You know,
I
um,
actually think that's more important, forming safe spaces where people can
mhm,
come together and they can
mhm,
share information, they can have intelligent conversations that's
mhm,
not about attacking each other's viewpoints. Even people, especially I think people where they're on radical different polarities, it's important to create spaces where people from opposing sides can come together and talk. And that's the real work that needs to be done, but people are very scared of doing that work, you know?
mhm,
But until we can find a way to create opportunities for education, to dispel ignorance, and also to allow a place where it can be safe for real conversation, that's when we're focusing on more solution oriented routes, you
mhm,
know, where we're bringing people together. That's solution oriented
mhm.
instead of what we got going on in our country, which always focuses on the polarization, the liberal,
Right,
the
right,
conservative, and all it does is divide us
right.
and nothing is clear, you know. But I don't even focus on any of that, to be honest with you, because I'm an anarchist. So
I have noticed this, Miss Krista, in that America is not good really at all.
mhm,
Um, I as
mhm,
I am on TikTok and I rarely post, and every time I want to, I just it's my own thing right now. But a bunch of queer creators on TikTok made this trend, and over 200 people participate in it, and they did a hand over the mouth.
mhm, mhm,
And if you are even slightly educated, you are aware that the hand over the mouth is for missing, murdered, and Indigenous women.
yeah,
It is their call to action.
mhm,
And thankfully, I was so thankful that I saw the aftermath on my TikTok feed. I didn't see anybody participating in the trend. I was like, good for you, TikTok. You know me well enough to know that I would have been pissed if I would have seen that on my feed. But the absolute arrogance within the queer white community
mm,
of essentially turning it around and talking about how it's homophobia. No, no, not really. Not really at all. What it was is that indigenous people, yet again, a marginalized group, and in my opinion, even more marginalized than a queer white folk,
absolutely.
are asking to say, "Hey, please don't do that." That's all. Hey, didn't in 2009 you guys use duct tape over your mouths to symbolize that you were being silenced as a queer community? Why are we not doing that? But it was so distressing to see the minimalization of the actual act and then the gaslighting that took place.
Mhm.
And I say that because it ties back to what you were talking about, how we need places to where people can say, "Hey, don't do that."
Yeah.
You know, and hey, are you aware that what you're doing is actually really offensive? Like, and being able to accept that and say, "You know what? I'm sorry." Not a, "Well, I didn't know." Okay, great. You didn't know.
Well, but
No
see
shit, you
that
didn't know.
that's part of the work though, is you're not
Right.
going to get that. You're going to get conflict and pushback.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the ability to be able to hold space to educate in nonviolent conversation, communication, where people can come to a place of understanding. And there are people out there that are doing this work, and it's very dynamic work, and it's very powerful and transformational. But a lot of people aren't ready for that. They're
No,
not ready to
no,
understand. And I did want to learn, I wanted to ask Krista, I wanted to ask you, um, just for your input, what do you feel? Because I want to give you a platform in this moment to say something about what do you feel like the average person here in America can do to help inspire awareness or move things in a more positive direction where there is actually this space held for the Indigenous people and the issues that need to be brought to the forefront. I would really like you to, if you're comfortable doing that, it seems like you are comfortable. You're very, very involved in the conversation. So I'd love to see.
yeah, 100%. It's 100%. I have seen this in action,
Mhm.
and I it is something that I have had to struggle with myself. Is don't be polite. Don't be polite. Um, we don't need to be polite.
Read
Okay.
Indigenous authors, Black
Okay.
authors, Arab authors, AKA World Indigenous authors. That's a
Okay.
great tip. That's a great
Thank
tip.
you.
Yeah, and it's not about being polite. It's about creating space where people can bring forward their very real emotions, what their stances are, and you bridge the gap. And the reality is, there are people doing this work, and it
Hmm.
has sparked very powerful change in dynamics, but it's such a small grassroots movement, and most people aren't brave enough to do that kind of work. So, until we like it or not, there is a lot of hate in the world, there is a lot of negativity in the world. But the reality is, until we figure out ways to get people to face these issues head on and
Hmm.
be able to, you're not going to be able to turn everybody around. That's just the reality. There's always people that are going to hate. There's always going to be people that want to stand for division. There's always going to be people that want to silence, that want to oppress. That's human nature, you know? But there are opportunities to educate, to create avenues for awareness. Some people are just ignorant. Maybe they were raised that way. They haven't been exposed to anything different. And until we open up safe spaces for communication,
Hmm.
where somebody can come forward and maybe things that, they didn't realize, right? They're ignorant to, that they didn't realize,
Yeah.
oh, this is just how I was raised, where they
I
can bring forward
will.
and that can be worked through, in a dynamic
Yes.
way, not about being polite, not about being polite, about being real, and creating honest, open dialogue, right?
Yes. So it's coming, and I'm gonna post the link in the comments. On TikTok, a lovely Black creator put her time and effort into creating an anti-racism journal. And it's questions and practices to move beyond performative allyship.
Mhm.
And I pre-ordered it. It's actually going to be coming sometime this month. Um, no, sometime next month. Okay. I'm like, but I will share the link in the comments because you can purchase it on Amazon. I'm really excited to get this journal and actually start it, because it was created by a Black woman with the express intention of helping, other folk with their anti-racism journey. So
Mhm.
let me
Mhm.
copy the link, and then if anybody is interested or anything at
That's
all,
excellent.
you can pre-order it. And if you want to do it together, I would be let me know. My DMs are open. I would be more than happy to go on this journey together. And because I do feel it is our responsibility as white folk to not leave the burden of our education and our journey
Absolutely.
to Black, Brown, and Indigenous people. They didn't create racism. We did. We
Absolutely.
did. So
Absolutely.
it is up to us to navigate that. And
I also want to say, because Krista brought in the lovely piece about authors, I also would like to tell people that Kevin Howe has a Facebook group. It's open to the public. It's for writers. And I would say that the vast majority of people within that group, that community, it's building every day. I would say that probably 95% are Black authors. And he does Zoom groups, and we get
great.
on and we talk with each other. We talk about real issues, these kind of issues, and
Mhm.
we exchange ideas. And for me, a white person to be in those groups, it's wonderful because I get to really hear a perspective that I don't usually get to hear.
Mhm. Mhm.
And yet we're all sharing in a very dynamic, real, unguarded way. And a lot of powerful stuff happens in his writing group. It's been a really positive experience for me. He wrote The Education of a Black Man. It was a best-selling book and wonderful author. He also used to be on The Real World way, way, way back when.
Oh.
Um, yeah, he's
Oh,
very,
that
he,
Kevin. That
yes, yes,
Kevin. Oh
yes, yeah.
my God.
Yeah, and he is so cool, and he's so gracious and so
Oh,
humble, and a gifted writer, and
yes.
he hosts. You all got to do it. If there's writers out there, you got to do it. Go in this group. He does a
Okay.
free Zoom class, and you get to sit with all these amazing. A lot of them are published authors. These
Wow.
amazing authors. Some of them are like beat poets. Some of them are rappers. And you get to
Wow.
sit and you get to hear them share their writing, and we have writing topics too. They're like about real shit. And then there's also opportunities to submit your writings to like social justice projects and stuff. It's really cool.
Yeah.
So
I please.
just I just wanted to piggyback off of what Krista brought in about that. So this is a way you can not only take in the works, of Indigenous, Black authors, authors from other backgrounds, but you can also interact and have.
Oh,
This is what I was talking about, having that safe space, because Kevin really sets the space for that, where he's like, look, I know we got people here that we need to bridge some gaps. We come from very different walks of life, but there's this thread of connection between us. Let's come together on that connecting point. And that's what I'm talking about. It's like so much of what we want to manifest. We want to manifest change. That sounds like what we're talking about right now. Well, if
yeah.
you want to manifest change, you can't keep focusing on the problem. You got
Mhm.
to direct your energy toward the
Right.
light. What is
How
the solution?
mhm. Mhm. And
What
yes,
is the wound
Brandy,
calling for?
Kevin from the first season of The Real World,
Yes,
the
Kevin Howe.
Kevin that they made, that angry black man
Yes.
that
Yep.
he was not. He
Yep.
was just literally screaming what black men and women have been screaming forever.
Yep.
And MTV and the show made him out to be that angry.
Yep.
I hate to use the word racist black man because you can't be racist and be you just can't. But that's what they made him out to be.
Mm-hmm.
And being an adult and now knowing what I know about the world and capitalism and fucking white supremacy, I when I because I watched the Real World reunion because the Paramount did the Real World reunion and he came back and everybody pretty much came back. I cried. I cried because I realized what they did to him. And I
Mm.
realized as a young child that watched that, that I absorbed that, and that that was not what it was. And it was very humbling. Yeah, yeah, for ratings and views at
Absolutely.
his expense.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And that's the thing. It's like he's really done something moving forward from that. And
Mhm.
it's actually really, it absolutely, Krista. I love
Yes.
that because I'm all about that. I always say a priestess makes all things sound. You got to do the work. You can't just pay stuff lip
Mhm.
service. You actually have to do the work and get involved and interact and, be willing to be educated, be willing to learn something new, be
Yep.
willing to expose yourself to something new. So after this, on the replay, I'll put on the chat, I'll put Kevin's link to his Facebook group. It's
Please.
open. It's open to the public. And it's
Wow.
actually what Krista was talking about. And it's like see, I'm glad I asked because it's like she brought that piece in and then it made me go, oh, Kevin Powell, so there's a space, where you all can
Come here,
start
child.
to, get your feet wet in that and get introduced to a lot of authors that you probably haven't been exposed to before. But I think the best part of it is the space he holds where we actually can drop in, meet. It's free. It's free. He
Wow.
does it for free. And you can sit and talk with these best-selling authors and you can share your work and they're sharing their work and people bring in just the most based off their experiences. And Kevin said something really powerful in one of the ones I attended where he said, the beautiful thing about writing is that no matter who you are, no matter what walk of life you come from, you read somebody's words, and if they reach in and they grab your heart, for that moment in time, you are able to kind of have the experience of that person. And so he was talking about how writing is such a powerful vehicle for creating understanding, especially in terms of these social dynamics, because it kind of allows us to let's get beyond our outer shells here. Let's get to the heart of the matter. And it's like that piece I was bringing in about where's that thread of connection? Where's the point of
Right.
standing? And writing is such a powerful way. So thank you so much, Krista, for bringing that piece in, for it to jog my memory about Kevin Powell's group, because that's a resource right now where people can come into these spaces and have
Yes.
these dynamic communications with others and pull together. It's really cool.
Yes. Oh my gosh. This has been a great night. Hi, babies. Hi. Yes, I know. I love you too. Salem's like, yes, yes, let's bring it all in. I know. I know. I heard you out there. And you're right, Randy. The media really does that, you know, and it it really does keep us in that cycle to where we can get lost in our manifestation, you
Well, it's
know?
true because it's geared towards division. It's not geared towards coming together. Media is a form of control.
Yep.
You know? Absolutely. Yeah,
Yes.
Chris.
I'm so
Thank you so
excited.
much. Thank you so
Yes.
much for bringing that in. I loved how that was a
Yes.
jumping off point and how it like tied
Mhm.
everything together so
Really
beautifully,
did. It really
right?
did.
And
It
look what
really
we
did.
did.
I
Look what we
know.
did. We brought
Yes.
our energies together and
Mhm.
we manifested the seed, right? The seed of a solution, okay? It's a beginning point.
Mhm.
And there can be more jump off points from that.
Sure
And so that's
can.
what I would say about manifestation. It's about that. It's about directing your energy on what is the thread of connection. It's about investing the energy in what is the way forward. Okay, we know what's fucked up. We
Mhm.
know that. We've looked at that how many times? We don't want to stay in this place of fucked upness. So what do we need to do to move the energy forward in a powerful way? And yeah, there's no safe spaces in that.
No.
That's where that discordian comes in.
Yep. Yep. No, I am really looking forward to getting this journal. I pre-ordered it back in March. So
Hmm.
I just keep looking at it, being like, okay, I'm getting it soon. I'm getting it soon. I'm getting it soon. Because you gotta do the work,
Yeah.
man. And I want to because you know I I mean I identified as bisexual, but really kind of coming into my actual sexuality and being like, okay, this is really how I identify. I have seen kind of some of the disregard that has been had for, you know, the doubly marginalized part of the queer community. And I didn't want to do that.
Yep.
I made that decision and, you know, I swear to God, TikTok reads everything and knows. And they brought me that, "Hey, do you want to work on your anti-racist journey? Do you wish you had something that you could have a platform and go off of and like a guide?" And I was like, "Yes. Yes, I would." And that's when the lovely creator said that she was creating it. I know.
Yeah. I mean, and that piece that, Krista brought in, really spoke to me too. I have Comanche, ancestry. My Uncle Pim lived on the reservation in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, so it's something that speaks to me too. And yeah, you don't find a lot of coverage about anything,
Mm-mm.
that's going on with the, indigenous peoples of our country, and
Yeah.
uh, and so that is a valuable piece to bring in. It's a valuable piece, but that's one of the reasons why I don't like the media.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, the media is the man. I
It
mean,
is. It
it's the
is.
man, and it's
100%.
it's an oppressive force, and it's used to manipulate people's consciousness to pit us against each other and keep people in the dark and easily controlled. And that's why I don't like it. So
Yeah.
I love the idea of sharing the word in a different way, through
Mhm.
people actually sharing their life experience, their stories, and what they want to educate people on through their words, through their books. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yes, I know. I'm all about the pleasure principle at this point too. I mean, it doesn't mean the pain goes away. It doesn't mean that the
Mhm.
harshness in the world doesn't
No,
go away. But if I can fill my cup and if I can savor the sweet taste of life, if I can focus on where there's life or where there's hope, then that allows me to give more from a fuller place inside of myself. And then my actions that I do take are more effective.
that's right. Are you
I
okay?
love you, Arbibo.
No. Gosh, well, I feel like we summed it up. Really?
We
You
like
know?
covered all kinds of stuff. We
We,
went
we did. We
we
did.
went
This was
everywhere with that. We
yeah,
went
this
on
this was
scorpion
way,
tangent.
this is yeah. Yeah. There we go. There we go. Yep. White gay folk. I
Mm,
know. Yep.
yeah.
So it's,
See, and
you
that's why it's
know,
so important. Like, yeah, right there, right there. What if somebody organized between those two, groups of people, a meeting point where people could talk about
right.
this stuff?
Right.
That's some pretty powerful work that could go down, man. So it's something interesting. I'm just putting that out there. But yeah, I see a
Yeah.
lot of that kind of disparity, definitely, in
Mhm.
different sectors. And
Mhm.
at the end of the day, we're all in this together, despite the outward struggles, despite what backgrounds we come from. At the end of the day, we got to find a way,
Mhm.
to come together,
Mhm.
or else we're all going to get rolled over. And
Yeah.
that's just the truth,
Yeah.
right?
100%. Well, gosh. Well, Broad, as always, I love you and I'm so grateful for our time and to
Yeah.
everybody that has shown up and contributed. And happy birthday again, Miss Krista. And,
Happy
you
birthday,
know,
Krista. Pleasure meeting
um,
you.
it was so lovely to quote unquote see you again. Um, Salem made an appearance, Ted made an appearance, everybody made an appearance. And you're right, Randy. The queer community has always been divided 100%. And here, Jennifer, we are all legit a part of each other.
Yeah,
We are.
we
We
are
are. You know.
at the end of the day.
Mhm. Mhm.
And yes, there's a lot of us who have privilege, and
And
there
it.
isn't, it's not equitable,
Mm-mm.
and there is a lot of injustice and there is a lot that's fucked up, but those of us who know. And
Mhm.
so the best thing we can do now is like manifest those
That's
solutions, like,
right.
and
That's
all we can
right.
do is take our personal responsibility is what
Mhm.
it comes down to at the end of the day. And I think that's also a part of manifestation too, just in like a
Mhm.
wrapping up point. When we're talking about manifestation on like a global change level, is just the fact that so often as individuals, we think, well, I'm just one person. What can I do? But it's like, if every person just held their peace
Mhm.
and did what they could do, even if they thought it was something so small, it would make a huge difference
Mhm.
cumulatively.
Yep.
So I
Yep.
think that that piece is super important. And
I
that's
agree.
that priestess path,
That's right.
the priestess makes all things sound. And part of
Mhm.
that is holding your piece of the puzzle. Yeah.
Ah. And oh, Krista, I love you. Thank you. Krista says she loved this. I feel so I'm so happy to see you. So,
Yeah,
um
it's really great. Took an unexpected turn, but I love it.
this right here, individualism, actually art. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Individualism.
And
It is
I
the
have to say,
worst.
I think people are waking up to that too. You hear a
Mhm.
lot more people now talking about collective. We're
Mhm.
moving away from this individualism
Mhm.
concept. And thank, spirit that that's happening. Thank great
Yes.
spirit that that's
Yes.
happening. At least people are starting to move to this place where they're like, no, it's collective. It's
Yep.
not
Yep.
individualism.
Yep.
And that, I have to say, ooh, I just got sentience. That right
Ah!
there, that's a positive change right there,
Yep.
because think about the paradigm shift that is. So
Yep.
if we can start having such a huge sector of the world's population moving to this collective mindset, there's hope
Yep.
you know? And I just saw like the star card,
Oh,
in my mind's eye. And what is the star about in tarot? The star is about, it's that light that you look at in the dark that guides you through, that dark night of the soul. So I feel like collectively, that's what we're in right now. And if collectively we can all look at that, like, how can I nurture that light, you know? So we can all kind of step out of that dark night of the soul and into that new potential. I mean, it is the age of Aquarius, okay?
that's right.
Transformation
That's
is
right.
possible.
That's right.
It is possible. And we are moving into that real, like, big, full energy, brand new cycle. We're closing old chapters. How do we want to move forward from here? You know? Hell yeah, whatever it takes, man.
Yep. I
Yes.
agree. I am
Yeah.
so grateful to everybody that has been here tonight. I know that I haven't gone live very much, and so I'm so pleasantly surprised to see so many people here tonight. And
Wonderful.
you know, maybe this is maybe this is my push to do this a little bit more because clearly y'all like us. So
Yeah, this is good.
like me.
It
But
creates, well, it creates what we wanted to create, a
yes,
container for people to come and talk
exactly,
about real things,
exactly.
where we can all sit together and bring in whatever we need to bring in and bring it to the table. And, I think it's wonderful. And I
Yep.
think if more people did this in whatever capacity they can,
Mhm.
that's a powerful movement forward for sure.
Yes.
And yes, thank you to everybody who came tonight and contributing to the
Yes.
discussion. I think
This
that's
has
so
been
wonderful.
this has
I
been
love
so
people bringing their
beautiful.
voice in.
Yes. And thank you. And again, happy birthday, Miss Krista. Yet another trip around the sun, you beautiful indigenous broad. And I love you and your two spirit, and you're just so beautiful, and I love you. And I love everybody here. Um thank you, Jennifer. Jennifer's always here. Danielle's
She's
always here
always
too
here. She's
for our
trooping around.
conversations. Ooh, 47 and still beautiful, my lady. Yes. Yes. Well,
11 year. That's power. It's a power year for you, Krista. Destiny year. Something important is going to unfold this year.
mm, I love it. And we will bid you all farewell and good night, and we will definitely be doing this again.
Yes.
Anthony will be coming with us next time. And we'll see you all next time and love you all so much. Good night.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.